Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. Uh, Saturdays are seeming to work out pretty well for this, so let's get started. Kicking things off, we've got 10 Lives of Wolverine, number 1. So, 10 Lives of Wolverine is going to be a mini-series put out in a similar manner to House of X and Powers of 10. Next week, we'll have 10 Deaths of Wolverine, number 1. And it's going to be, 10 lives, 10 deaths. 10 lives, 10 deaths. So, but it's supposed to be basically set things up for what's coming in the X books starting in the spring. So we begin with Wolverine on a mountain looking at a watch. Apparently, he's not too fond of digital watches. He prefers analog. He explains that a digital clock makes no sense to him. It sells alive a singular moment that doesn't exist. It's already gone. Proper watch lets you see the possibility of all time. That's the truth he knows from more than a century of living. But as he's having his inner monologue, Xavier shows up and explains that it's time. We then flash back to the past. Apparently the birth of Charles Xavier. A gardener at the Xavier, at what would later become the Xavier School for Gifted Children, throws a pair of hedge clippers at Brian Xavier, Charles's father, but Wolverine pushes Brian out of the way. Turns out it's the groundskeeper, who is seemingly possessed by Omega Red. And as he's possessed by Omega Red, he's able to manifest Omega Red's tendrils, and he gets an Omega symbol on his forehead. A red Omega symbol. But in the apparently Omega Red snuck into the hatchery, knocked out Egg, and used him to gain access to the various protocols. We also get a letter a Resurrection Protocols memo that had been sent to Beast from the Five, basically saying, why are we keeping the carbonation synthesizer inside Omega Red? Because it's dangerous. And it requires him to continue to drain life from to sustain his immune system. But there's some points made, and then a complaint to X-Force that mutant resurrection is a gift. It is life itself. The edits applied to Omega Red by order of X-Force are an affront to him, to the Five, and to all of mutant kind. And further, this is a dangerous precedent and a violation of Krakoa's principles. Did he not request amnesty? Are we not united in our cause and our kind? If we are to resurrect and rebuild his carbonated synthesizer, why not edit his body to not require in the first place? In doing so, could we not theoretically reduce his capacity for violence? If he has done something punishable, then let him be punished, but not this. This is an atrocity. And there's a response from Beast saying, your job is to cook what we order. You have received our order. Now cook. But it seems that so the time travel being displayed here seems to be similar in how it works to Days of Future Past. Wolverine's mind is being sent to his younger body, just as Omega Red's mind is being sent back to, his psychic essence is being sent back to in time as well. But Omega Red moves from the groundskeeper to the butler, and then to the midwife. Now, one thing that's shown is that when Omega Red possesses someone, the reflection shows Omega Red, not the person. But Wolverine is able to save Xavier, and the mental time travel is being done by Xavier in the present as well as Jean. But so it turns out that Wolverine was present for the birth of Charles Xavier, and even cut Xavier's umbilical cord, and saved his life as well. In the present, Omega Red steps through the Krakoan Gate in Moscow, wanting to talk to Mikhail Rasputin, who welcomes him home. We then get a logbook entry from Sage of the New Russia. The official statement from the Kremlin is that a new constitution was drafted to embrace two Russias and two leaders, the president of the people and the president of the mutants. They have to function as twins in the womb, nesting dolls in service to the mother country. Unconfirmed is that Mikhail Rasputin is data mining the Cerebro sword, and the president of Russia has been compromised. And that if what's going on is Mikhail Rasputin is doing, they are dealing with a geopolitical crisis that requires their immediate attention. But the issue ends with Wolverine shifting to another time. This time being the Team X days, alongside Maverick and Sabretooth. They're in Jean manages to explain that they're in Colombia. The target is 25 miles south by southwest of where he's at, and he has to save Xavier. The clock is ticking, and that is where the issue ends. Interesting kickoff to this. Much like I did 2.5 years ago with House of X and Powers of 10, I will be going over 10 lives and 10 deaths weekly on Mutant Monday in a more in-depth manner. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Death of Doctor Strange, X-Men and Black Knight. Doctor Strange is dead. Dane Whitman, the Black Knight, has discovered he has a daughter, and the two of them are sharing the burden of the Ebony Blade. So, something's happening in England, and the X-Men respond to save the day, but something goes wrong. During the Black Knight miniseries, the Black Knight took all of the ebony artifacts aside from the Ebony Blade, and he combined them into the Ebony Throne, which allows him a degree of sight. And he can also use it to mentally, kind of telepathically connect with his daughter when she's out in the field. And it could go vice versa. She could be in the chair, he could be and he can be in the field. So yeah, either or. But he's also seeing images of the founding Camelot. The drawing of the sword. But Jax arrives in England, which seems to have been eaten, and the X-Men are now very different. We also learned that Jax is a longtime fan of the X-Men since she was 9 years old. Faiza Hussein, the current wielder of Excalibur, shows up and tries to get Jax, thinking she's Dane, to work with her, but, well, yeah. There's an odd thing occurs when Excalibur and the Ebony Blade meet, though, and so they start thinking maybe there's something they can, they need to keep in mind. Jax and Faiza are able to free Sync and Rogue, and the two of them are then able to free the rest of the X-Men. It's also revealed that the Ebony Blade was actually forged from the stone in which Excalibur was initially placed in. Also, the Sword, the Stone. Yeah, what it said here is that that was a means of stopping a. It was a stopgap measure to prevent mystical incursions upon Earth. But, and Dane points out that Merlin was kind of a bastard, and well, putting the sword back in the stone wouldn't have done much for his grand myth. So yeah. But the X-Men are freed, as is London. Dane gets some visions of what's going on with the death of Doctor Strange. Asks Jax to pass them on to the rest of the X-Men, but Jax kind of says, everything will be fine. And she actually calls Dane Dad in the end. As the X-Men are leaving, however, a question... Jean is asked if they should tell Jax something that they just realized about her. Jax is in fact a mutant. And that is where the issue ends. Very interesting. It'll be quite interesting to see how this plays out. Oh, yes, and the way that they stopped everything from happening was for Faiza to stab Jax, to basically stick the Excalibur through her, basically putting the sword back in the stone. The idea being you use a magical item enough, you start to become that item. Ergo, since the ebony blade was forged of the stone the Excalibur was kept in, then she's becoming the stone, so Excalibur is replaced in the stone. But that brings us to our next book, Devil's Reign X-Men, #1. I honestly can't recall if this is supposed to be a miniseries. I think it is. But, so, in some more recent issues of X-Men, we've learned that Wilson Fisk and Emma Frost have a past. Namely that Emma Frost used her psychic abilities to covertly help opponents of Kingpin's. So the issue begins with Kingpin in a spa, having just beaten everyone to death in there and being attacked himself. When Wesley on Welch arrives, some pictures. Elektra is sent to kill 2 of the men in the picture. The other, however, Emma Frost is sent to speak to at a club, and explains that this person will give the Kingpin what he wants. And Emma explains that she's the good witch. And somewhere out there that night is the bad witch. We see a young girl drawing a picture, and she looks at the apartment across the way when suddenly a splatter of blood goes against it, and Elektra steps out of the window. The girl covers her eyes, looks again, and Elektra's gone. In the present, the Thunderbolts have shown up at the treehouse to bring in the X-Men. But Emma passes along, lets Harry Leland know of what's going on, though it appears that the UN has no desire to intervene with what Fisk is doing. But like I said, the Thunderbolts show up and try to bring in the X-Men. Fisk is quite pleased because it's likely, as the X-Men are seemingly not coming peacefully, they're going to do his job for it. They'll do the press job for him. Fighting the Thunderbolts on television? Oh, yeah. But no, that's not the plan. Taskmaster tries to take Wolverine's measure, stating that he's fought the original Wolverine, but not, as he puts it, this pretender, to which Laura simply states that She's so not interested. But then Emma Frost shows up and explains that the treehouse is recognized by the United Nations as a consulate of the sovereign nation of Krakoa. The X-Men posted their own goodwill mission for the betterment of all mankind, and indeed all life on planet Earth. And she would throw U.S. Agent out of Seneca Gardens, but it remains an open green space for all New Yorkers, even John Walker. U.S. Agent is told to stand by, and both Emma and Fisk state that the other is out of their depth. But the orders are that Fisk passes on are for the Thunderbolts to continue their rounds and leave the X-Men to him. But apparently his anger is potent enough that Jean can feel it across town. But Fisk has brought his file on Emma Frost. And it appears the little girl from earlier who saw Elektra is listed as a cold case file. Cold homicide. It looks like she was murdered and it's a cold case. And the issue ends with a quote from Emma Frost: "When you push to change the world, it pushes back." But it does appear that Fisk intends to implicate Emma in the little girl's murder. But it does seem to be a miniseries, not a one-shot. So, yeah, Devil's Reign has been an interesting crossover so far. And sticking with Devil's Reign, we're moving on to our next book, Villains for Hire, #1. So this basically just shows our primary Thunderbolt squad trying to be a team. They stop an assault on the Met Gala. And it's confirmed that yes, it is Agony. The symbiote of the team is Agony. But afterwards, they're talking, and the team. It becomes so the team does not. While they might work somewhat well together, they don't play well with each other. And Fisk stops them and tells them to go after the terrorists who attacked the Met Gala. Make sure there are no cameras present, and remind them to stay out of Fisk City painfully. They do. The next day, the Thunderbolts were meeting with the mayor when U.S. Agent barges in and report for duty. That is where the issue ends. I'll be honest, it's a fun issue to read, but I didn't really need to know that, U.S. Agent was going to happily just roll over for the frigate for Mayor Kingpin. So yeah, I mean, man never saw a boot he didn't want to lick. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Moon Knight #7, where we left off. The mysterious manipulator of Mark Spector's nightlife had been revealed to be Zodiac. Not the Zodiac Gang, but just Zodiac. Also, his former teammate and at least brief romantic interest, Tigra, had returned into his life and seemed to be sticking around for a while. Also, Zodiac was revealed to actually be a young man that Mark had saved from vampires earlier in the series, but just a mask that he was wearing. Terry. So Moon Knight goes to the bar with no name. For those of you who may be unaware, the bar with no name is a bar that exists in New York in the Marvel Universe. It's where all of the supervillains, it's where a lot of the street level supervillains hang out. You also get the occasional high profile supervillain that hangs out there, but yeah, it's mostly kind of the more blue collar supervillains. They were actually referenced in the last issue of Marauders, the bar itself. There's a running game there. How far can you break into the Baxter Building? And people take bet. Like maybe someone will say, "Okay, I'll do it tonight," and everyone bets. Oh yeah, you'll get this far. You get that far. $10 says you get this far. 100 says you get that far. So on and so forth. But turns out Moon Knight's always known about the bar, and that until now, he's never wanted anything from anyone there. And he explains their established parameters. He's not Spider-Man. He's not the Punisher. He's Moon Knight. And they all know that means one thing. No one in this bar, himself included, knows precisely what he's capable of. But he says he's going to say one word and then he will leave. That one word being Zodiac. Tells his therapist about Zodiac. He also, meanwhile, Tigra makes a call, and it's revealed that Tigra is in fact keeping an eye on Moon Knight for someone. But the person that she's in contact with knows of the Zodiac gang, but not an individual named Zodiac. 8-Ball, however, a villain who wears a giant 8-Ball as a mask, as a helmet. He gets taken by Moon Knight and interrogated interrogated in an enhanced manner. It involves a car shredder. But Moon Knight lets him go, and he's led to someone else he can ask. But as 8-Ball escapes, Moon Knight is asked if he's actually going to shred 8-Ball, to which Moon Knight says if he was really going to shred him, he would have put 8-Ball in feet first. But his next target Manslaughter Marsdale apparently owes his life to Zodiac and won't give up any info on him to Moon Knight. But as their fight goes on, Marsdale apparently does not feel pain. But he states he doesn't snitch, and Moon Knight believes him and moves on, looking for a villain known as the Clown, with the help of Tigra. They find Clown, or at least what's left of him. What's left of him being everything from the neck down. We discover that Tigra is keeping an eye on Moon Knight for Black Panther, presumably on behalf of the Avengers. And Moon Knight's therapist goes into her office as the issue ends and finds Zodiac with the head of the Clown. Explaining that what he's been doing to Mark has been an intervention of sorts. And so he wants to talk about with the therapist, how they're going to get Mark back on track. And that is where the issue ends. Moon Knight's been good, consistently since its first issue. So yeah, I mean, I may be a little biased as a fan of the character, but yeah, it's always a fun read. I think it was it was one of the first books I read this week. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Silver Surfer Rebirth, #1. So the placement of this timeline-wise doesn't entirely seem to make sense. We begin with a Kree ship about to fall into a black hole, so it's stopped and pulled away. But it was stopped initially by Legacy, Genus Vel, recently returned to the land of the living, and Captain Marvel. But he gets an assist from none other than the Silver Surfer. And so they're flying through space. Genus wants to know about his father, Marvel. He's trying to follow in his footsteps, after all. And it's suggested that by Silver Surfer that maybe Genus should go to Earth, and because there are a lot of heroes on Earth who hold Marvel in high regard. So, but suddenly the two of them smash through a barrier, and it's no longer Marvel and it's no longer Genus Vel flying alongside the Silver Surfer, but rather Marvel, and they're on a planet preventing a Skrull invasion. However, and apparently in this reality, Marvel survived cancer, only to be killed by Thanos, who states he has need of the Surfer. An interesting start. I actually really like the fact that this feels like so much of the old '90s Marvel space stuff. I think in large part due to artist Ron Lim doing the pencils. Lim did a lot of art for some of the, like I said, more the '90s cosmic stuff for Marvel. I think he may have drawn Infinity War and Infinity Crusade, and various other Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a run on Silver Surfer. But yeah, his Surfer is for people of a certain for comic readers of a certain age group. His version of the Surfer, as well as his version of various other Marvel cosmic mainstays, is fairly iconic. Anyway, moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Star Wars Dr. Aphra, #18. Where we left off, Aphra and Sana were on the trail of Kofon Ferris, who was stealing artifacts related to the Ascendancy, apparently on behalf of Crimson Dawn. The issue begins, however, with a flashback for Just Lucky and Ariel Yu. Lucky goes off on a job, leaving Ariel at home. The present, he's at a bar looking for Ariel, however. But apparently they returned from Jakara rather shaken up. And Lucky asks if the bartender he's talking to will keep him pass a message on to Ariel should they show up. With Aphra, her and Sana are constantly one step behind Ko, but there's one more name on the database, so they go see him. Basically explain they're going to they're going to draw Ko out. And it turns out that Ko, Sana, and Aphra all went to school together. Ko does not have fond memories. Not actually, Ko and Sana both do not have fond memories of Aphra, but yeah. But turns out that the listing they made was fake, just to draw out Ko. But turns out she's looking for, what was it? The Tomb of the Eternal Spark. And Aphra realizes where it is. On Barleth at the school that the three of them all went to. Which is where the issue ends. That'll do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.